Today on Locked On Red Wings, Nate Danielson, Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who tops the list of the Detroit Red Wings top 10 prospects in 2025.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty, how are you feeling knowing that this is the final episode of our what we call in-season format, where we are at 5 days a week before we get to 3 days a week starting next week all the way until the end of August?
Well, honestly, just, my life turns very focused to baseball during that time, but especially because the Tigers are actually doing well. MLB draft is this weekend. So, I mean, really that. And then on top of that, from the Wings perspective, just kind of counting down the days until we're back at 5, because that means that hockey is around the corner.
Right. Excited to have a couple extra days to, enjoy the summer, but don't worry, we'll still be bringing you guys content 3 days a week all the way through the dredges of the offseason. We'll have something to talk to you guys about, like today, where we talk about our top 10 Detroit Red Wings prospects, and we are going to do it slightly differently than we have in years past. We won't go necessarily one by one here, but rather segment by segment. With 10 prospects, we're going to do 4 in segment 1 here, name them all off, right off rip, 3 in segment 2, and then the final 3, the top 3 in segment 3. We're going to make you hold on until the end to find out who comes in the top 3. But Scotty, let's start off. Well, first of all, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Let's not forget that. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Let's start off with prospects 10 through 7 on my list, and then we can argue about and split hairs about the placement of each of them. Scotty, when I was going through the prospects, I came up with Amadeus Lombardi as prospect number 10, Anton Johansson as prospect number 9, Jesse Kiskinen at 8, and Dmitry Buchnikov at 7. Those are all 4 guys who I think this year, Amadeus Lombardi, we have been personally high on for quite some time. So him actually being at 10 is actually lower than he has been in previous years, I think. But Anton Johansson, Jesse Kiskinen, and Dmitry Buchnikov really impressed this season in their respective leagues. And I think that they deserve to be in the top 10, even if Buchnikov hasn't signed his ELC yet.
Yeah. So, the only disagreement I have here is not the names themselves being a part of the top 10. It's the placement. I have Lombardi higher, and to be honest with you, I have Butch like way higher.
Oh, I'm excited to hear where you have Buchnikov a little bit later here. So my reasoning behind the way we're doing this today too.
Sorry, you have him at 7. You're on right on the cusp of the next tier or whatever we want to say. Like, right. I don't want to make it sound like you didn't give him his flowers. I just have him. I have him a few places ahead of you still even. So, and then Lombardi, I have at 8 instead of 10. But I think that's kind of just splitting hairs at that point.
Well, and that's exactly it. We're kind of doing this by tier, right? Like my 7 through 10, as I was listing these guys off and tiering them off, I realized that I had each of these guys kind of in tiers in my head without realizing. Like, I could easily make an argument for Amadeus Lombardi or Dmitry Buchnikov or Kiskinen or Anton Johansson anywhere in that 7 to 10 range. So this is like my 7 to 10 tier. Like, these are guys that I could all see if we're splitting hairs, going any range and any spot in that tier.
For sure.
And I will not argue. Amadeus Lombardi had a great season with the Grand Rapids Griffins. I don't think that I wouldn't argue with anyone who wants to place him higher in the tier list all the way up to 7. He had 40 points in 44 games played. He was nearly a point per game in the AHL. He's got a lot of scoring. He's very talented. He's fast as all get out. The big question mark for him is, can he play defense? And for me, it's just the lack of the defensive side of his game that just has me putting him down there at 10, because that's going to be what will determine whether or not he's an NHL player.
Yeah, which I think is totally fair. Really, Lombardi, I think, is kind of the poster child for like really high floor, low ceiling, right? Like or other way around.
Other way around.
Really high ceiling, low floor, rather. Somebody who, like, if he reaches his peak potential, you're talking about a guy that could be like a top 6 forward on this team if he puts it all together. That being said, I think the floor is like not even being an established NHLer, just because whatever, the skills don't translate. And like you mentioned, the defense and size maybe becomes an issue. So I just have him higher just for the sheer like boom or bust effect. And just like, okay, well, if it does all click, he could be a really, really good forward on this team for a long time. Whereas, somebody like Anton Johansson, like we obviously love, but I think he's more a little bit of like a higher floor, lower ceiling type of player. That's all.
Anton Johansson's an interesting one too, Scotty, because this is a guy that really was not on my radar at all until this season. Then, accounts like Let's Go Red Wings Prospects, LGRW Prospects started posting more, and it's like, guys, pay attention to this guy. 4th round pick in 2022. Came over from the SHL this offseason after his team got eliminated and played with the Griffins. And with the Griffins, had 5 points in 11 games in the regular season, just 1 point in the 3 playoff games that they played. Like, he fit right in pretty quickly with the Griffins. He did opt to go back to the SHL this next season coming up, but he signed his ELC. He is a big right shot defenseman who is, I would say, is developing a little bit quicker for a 4th round pick than we expected. And he legitimately looks like he might have second pair ceiling, which, I mean, he went from not ranked to my 9th best prospect. And that when we reassess this again next year, he could be even higher on this list. This is a guy that really impressed me this last year.
Yeah, definitely deserves a shout in the rankings without a doubt for that reason.
Yeah, Jesse Kissinen, another guy, the Red Wings acquired him via trade last year with the Nashville Predators, a prospect swap as they were clearing cap space. I think that preceded the Jake Wollman trade. He was a 3rd-round pick from the Nashville Predators. He has signed his ELC that officially kicks in this season coming up. So the first of his 3-year ELC begins this year. He's 19 years old, and he played in the Finnish Liga last year, which is the top league in Finland, had 44 points in 46 games, was huge for Team Finland in the World Juniors, was a point per game in that as well while wearing the A. He is a forward prospect that, again, because this guy wasn't on the team last year, the organization last year, didn't know anything about, but has impressed. And Elite Prospects lists his team for next season as Grand Rapids, so he appears to be coming over to North America to take the next step too.
Yeah, that'll be something we can ask Rinaldi about, in the preseason that we do every year. But yeah, obviously, anytime you get somebody in a trade that immediately kind of established themselves as one of the 9 or 10 best prospects in the organization, that's super exciting. And I agree with you. I've been the same spot as you as well.
And then
one different because of the Lombardi thing, but yeah, same.
In my number 7 was Dmitry Buchnikov, who is a Red Wings prospect who has continued to climb the ranks for you and I since he was drafted in the 2nd round of 2022, has yet to sign his ELC because he plays in Russia, and Russian players don't really come over until they're basically ready to make the roster. His contract with his KHL team is up next year. He's playing for CSKA in this upcoming year after Vityaz basically folded, but he was really good last year with Vityaz. He had 54 points in 65 games. And KHL is a really good league too. It's a professional league. This is a player that's basically on the cusp of graduating from prospect tier. Like, this is, and I don't mean that as in like he's aging out, but this time next year, or at this time in April or whatever, when his season's over.
This time.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is he could come over to North America and he could make the Red Wings sooner rather than later because of his development. So
no, you're absolutely right.
Great.
So I actually have I have Bear at 7.
Okay.
And I have Buchnikov in our next tier, so we can go to segment 2 if you want. But I like Bear to me is just kind of the epitome of like, this is a high motor guy. Obviously we haven't seen him play or anything yet in the Wings organization, so there's still I don't know, like we just don't know what we don't know. Like we'll wait and see what he looks like at the professional level and see kind of Yeah, how high of a ceiling we think he has and whatnot, but I think that his play style is very much like, okay, if you get a middle six, high motor guy out of him, that's a big win.
It's funny, in this tier, I had 3 speedy forwards who shoot a lot, and then a top 4 defenseman prospect. I think I might have a type. Scotty, let's head to a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about Carter Bear, as well as the other players that are in my second tier in segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the guesswork out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty. So for my next tier in prospects, so this would be 6 through 4, I have Carter Bear, so just one spot higher than you have Carter Bear because you had him at 7. Trey, Augustine, and Sebastian Cossa. And again, for this tier, I could make the argument for any of these guys coming in any of that order at 6 through 4. But I want to go to you first, Scotty. One, what was your 6 through 4? But also because you had Carter Bear at 7th, I want to hear your thoughts on him too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I already kind of talked about Bear before the break there. So, that's like I said, obviously who I have at 7. I have Augustine at 6. Obviously, somebody that we're all really excited about. The only reason that I feel like every time we do this, I continuously have him a little bit lower than other people. It's not because of like him or like his talents or anything. It's just the fact that we haven't seen him outside of college hockey. Like I just wanna see how good he is, in the AHL or wherever he ends up post college. But the NCAA is also like the best it's been in a while. That is a very competitive league and a very good league for development. So he's really good. He's really good at the NCAA level. Those are all pros. So I have him as the number 6 prospect. Number 5 is where I have
Buchnikov.
The second, the L always, my mouth doesn't move that way. But I think that he, to me, is unbelievably exciting. As you kind of already mentioned a lot of the reasons why. But like this is a guy that is already playing against good competition and is doing really well and is kind of just flying up ranks in terms of, these types of lists that are out there over the last couple of years. I am incredibly excited about him. Honestly, I had to like talk myself down from putting him even higher. I was debating, but I feel good about just being able to say that I think he's a top 5 prospect in the organization. That just sounds good, and I don't have to specify which spot specifically he is in there. But I just think that this is a really unique skill set that is playing against competition that nobody else on this list can say they play against, whether that's good or bad. I think that there's kind of like a mystery box element to it. Like this could even be a boat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, right. This is really exciting in terms of the potential ceiling for him. Yeah, man. I and like all the clips that are out there whenever they make the rounds online of his performances are always unbelievably exciting. I have really high hopes for him. I've kind of like completely bought in.
Scotty's very high on Dmitry Buchnikov, and personally, I struggled mightily with this tier the most because I agonized over Sebastian Cossa or Trey Augustine, who goes above the other, and then Carter Bear's a hard one to place.
Yeah,
because this is a guy he was a 13th overall pick, so he's clearly got a high talent level, but we have not seen him yet. His development process with the Red Wings hasn't even began. So it's like, yeah, he's top 10, but how high can I justifiably put him? Which is why I put him at basically the end of the first round picks plus Trey Augustine that they've already had, because I just haven't seen any of him yet to reliably place him. I can't, in good conscience, put him above MBN. Like, we've seen a year of MBN's development.
For sure.
So, and that's not to say Carter Bear can't be better than him. It's just right now, I think putting him at 6th in the top 10 prospect ranking is pretty fair.
For sure.
Because he's going to be a middle of the lineup winger if he develops the way he should, like NBN should. Trey Augustine and Sebastian Cossa, this is where, man, I just agonize the most. Sebastian Cossa, obviously, he's been with this organization since 2021. He was the 15th overall pick and the first round in that season. He had another really impressive year at the Grand Rapids Griffins, 911 save percentage with a goals against average of .245 in 41 games played. So he was the starter with Grand Rapids. He, like the rest of the team, kind of took a slide for the worst in the second half of the season, and he didn't have a great playoff performance. And I know because he's been in the organization for several years now, he's a 2021 draft pick, fans are beginning to sour on him a little bit and are steering a little bit towards the newer shiny toy in Trey Augustine, who was drafted in 23 in the second round. I literally thought, can I cheat and have a tie for 4th place? And
I'm glad you didn't, because I would not have allowed it.
Because I was just like, I don't know. And at the end of the day, I decided to keep Sebastian Cossa on top of Trey Augustine here, just solely because of where they're at in the development cycle and the intangibles that Cossa has over Trey Augustine, that being the size and the sheer athleticism. But I am starting to come around to the fact that Augustine may have a higher ceiling than Sebastian Cossa, while Cossa may have the higher floor. Not to say, I mean, both of these guys, like, he won goaltender of the year in the Big Ten. Trey Augustine did. Like, he's a excellent goalie, and he had a great year, like a .940 save percentage in the NCAA, which is one of the best developmental leagues you can have in North America for developing a pro athlete, for developing an NHL player. But Sebastian Cossa is playing in the AHL. So I know there's a little bit of frustration with Red Wings fans who want to see him up here now and are like, he must be a bust if he's not here. But it's just like, again, I want to reiterate, like, it's just a long development process for a lot of goaltenders. And yeah, he is starting to get longer in the tooth on that development cycle, but it's just, it's splitting hairs.
Like, it's a goalie. Like, we've seen goalies take like 6 years. Like,
right.
Like that goalies are weird when it comes to development. So this is another probably outside of Dimitri, this is probably the thing we maybe disagree on the most. And it's like barely any, but you know, for us, that's a lot. I think that, so I have MBN actually at 4. 4. MBN is at 4 for me, and I have Cossa at 3. And then Augustine at 6. So we have, I think, just those two flipped. Spoiler alert. But I have Cossa as a top 3 prospect in the organization, and I have MBN as the number 4. I mean, we can start with MBN. Obviously, very exciting. Everyone's really excited about him. I'm really excited about him. I think that this is a guy that you are hoping can become a fixture in the middle of the lineup for, well, a while, for, best case scenario, a decade plus, I guess. But, and when it comes to Cossa, you said something interesting there where you said Augustine might have the higher ceiling, but Cossa might have the higher floor. I actually might think it's the opposite.
Really?
And that, I'm not sure if I'm not sure which of us is like the person that's standing on an island in terms of like the view of the fan base, but I think that Cossa, you mentioned the intangibles, you mentioned kind of the pedigree that came with him into professional hockey. Like, I still think that his ceiling is a really, really good number one goaltender on an NHL team. And that's not to say that Augustine's isn't that, but I still think that Augustine is again, as you mentioned, proving that he can handle the NCAA level really, really well, which is great. I have hesitation about saying that, as you mentioned, one of them is playing professional hockey, one of them is not. Like that to me, and maybe Augustine makes the jump over after he finishes at Michigan State and absolutely dominates the AHL, and we're looking back about how ridiculous it was to ever think otherwise, and he leapfrogs and whatever. Two things. One, we don't know what we don't know. Two, and far more importantly, they are not pinned against each other. We're doing this as like a fun exercise. They're on the same team. They're in the same organization. It is only a good thing that we have multiple options in that nobody makes it through an NHL season with just one goalie. Having both of them potentially be solid NHL goalies down the line is really, really exciting.
Yes. I think you brought up a really good point there, Scotty. So it's funny you had Cossa at 3. What I do want to pick your brain, because we talked a lot about Cossa versus Augustine, but I do want to pick your brain as to why you have MBN below Sebastian Cossa, and I'm going to ask you that to start segment 3, because spoiler, MBN is my third prospect. So we, again, swapped in one spot. Splitting hairs, but we swapped in one spot. Point of the exercise. Segment 3 of Lockdown Red Wings coming up. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty. So I'm gonna start with number 3 here, because that's Michael Brandsegg-Nygard. You had him at 4, where I had Cossa at 4, but you have Cossa at 3. And you talked about why you like MBN, but I want to know why you have MBN or Cossa above MBN in this situation.
Yeah, this is another one where I think, depending on the criteria of your list, this is where you're going to see the most juggling. Like, to me, if Cossa can reach his ceiling, that is higher than anybody else. I think anybody else before him on the list, in my opinion. Maybe that's not 100% true, but I still think that the ceiling that he brings of, if everything clicks and he is a true top-end goaltender at the NHL, that is more valuable, and that is a higher ceiling than maybe the expectation for MBN to become, or what the expected ceiling he has is. And yeah, like there's no guarantee he hits that. And we might look back and again, like Cossa might flop and MBN is a solidified middle of the lineup guy and look at that. But as it stands now, when they're both playing, professional but not NHL hockey, I still just hold out. Maybe it's just holding out dumb hope that Cossa reaching his ceiling is more valuable than what a lot of the other guys on this list could bring if they hit their ceiling.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, you talk about positional value too. I think that can have a huge impact on it, and you may hear the positional value argument come back up here in a couple minutes. A all-star starting goaltender, if Cossa hits his ceiling, the impact he has because of the position he plays is going to be more than a scoring winger.
Right.
Impact can be. So there is an argument there, and I think that is a good point to raise when making this list. I think a lot of when people make these prospect lists, like I do, a lot of it has to do more about what you don't know about a player versus what you do know about other players. So here's where you'll see a guy like Cossa, and this is where partly why I struggled with Augustine versus Cossa. I've seen a lot more of Cossa, so I have a lot more of a firmer grasp on what he is over than what Trey Augustine is, and because Trey Augustine's playing at the NCAA level and he's lighting it up. I know less about what he's going to become. So there's more optimism to be had there, but the ceiling he could reach.
Sure.
Thereby, it's easier to rank him above Cossa because of the unknown that is still there. It's an exciting unknown. It could be a boat, right? Going back to that same old analogy, where we kind of already know Cossa might already be the boat. So it's that's where a lot of that, I think, comes in when I'm doing these rankings. It's the same thing with Carter Bear. Like, Carter Bear is an instant top 10 prospect. We haven't seen a lick of him, but it's the unknown about what he could be.
For sure.
Obviously, he is
with everybody,
top 15 draft pick, so there's obviously the expectation there too that pushes him up the rankings, but it's the unknown plus the expectation that I think can sometimes outweigh what we've actually already seen out of some of these other prospects. Anyways, I digress. Scotty, before we get to the top 2, I want to do a quick honorable mention. There's a couple prospects that I considered for my list, but ultimately left on. Number 1, I think a lot of people are going to be thinking about is Carter Mazur. I really did debate putting him on there, but when I'm weighing the ceiling that I think he has as a NHL forward, I think he probably is a bottom 6 forward at the NHL level. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We love Carter Mazur on this program. The dude's a dog, and I'm really hoping he makes a team out of camp because he's going to bring a lot of depth scoring, and he's going to make this team a lot better in the bottom 6 with the type of game he plays. A very physical, high-motor game. But when we're talking about the ceiling and the impact these prospects can have, I feel like the guys I listed just came in above that. And plus, he's really close to graduating from prospect tier anyways. He's 23 years old. He, probably was going to finish the season with the Red Wings last year if that injury had not happened. I also thought about William Olinder and Shai Buium. I think Shai Buium was on my list last year, but even though they're playing in a really difficult league and they had decent seasons, again, it's the unknown factor. I've seen a lot of these guys now with Grand Rapids. Whereas like Anton Johansson mostly played in the SHL and he kind of tore it up. So I think the excitement level is a little bit higher. I could have made an argument for any 3 of those to be in that first tier, right? That 10 through 7, but I opted to keep them as honorable mentions.
Yeah, my honorable mentions were Buium and Mazur. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. So my top 2, and I think this is where a lot of people are going. The goaltending, I predicted the goaltending and the top 2 are going to be what spurs the most conversation in the comments and online. My second best prospect in the Red Wings organization is Axel Sandin-Pellikka, and my number 1 prospect in the Red Wings organization is Nate Danielson. And a lot of this comes down to, for me, is positional value and whether you value ceilings or floors more. Scotty, before I go into my reasonings, how do you have those 2 guys ranked? Because
you
haven't ranked them either.
Yeah.
You haven't flipped? Okay. Well, why do you have what's your reasoning then for why you have Axel Sandin-Pellikka 1 and Danielson 2?
Yeah, well, I think you bring up a great point there in terms of ceiling. Like, I think ASP has the highest ceiling in the entire organization. Mm-hmm. I think if he reaches and puts it all together and reaches the true peak that people believe is like reasonably on the table for him, he could be one of the best players on the Wings if that happens. Danielson, I love, and I think has maybe the highest floor of anybody we just talked about. He's like a guaranteed middle 6 guy, I think. And there's a chance that he, if he sticks at center, then that's even better, right? As you mentioned, positional value. If you get a second line center out of Danielson, that is a massive win for this organization. And that is obviously a great thing and is going to be, again, as you mentioned, incredibly valuable. I think that that's a super fair point when making these lists. Mine was a lot more, I don't know, simplistic, like dumbed down. Like mine was really just like, I think if you're truly just arguing who has the highest ceiling in the entire organization, I think it's ASP.
Yes, and I agree with you. I think ASP, if he hits those peaks like you were just talking about, he could be a true offensive force from the back end. Shane Gostisbehere, but with better defense.
Right,
but
hopefully.
if the defense doesn't develop, which is the big fear, I still think he's an NHL player. I think he's probably
he's Gostisbehere.
Then he is actually just Gostisbehere. He is a sheltered third pair defenseman that plays a lot of power play minutes and gets a lot of power play points. That is perfectly okay, especially with taking 15th overall. Like that is a fine result for where he was taken,
sure.
Right? He's not a top 10 pick. He's not a top 5 pick. You're not expecting to get Moritz Seider out of Axel Sandin-Pellikka. But for me, it's just because I value the security. It's kind of like with my Augustine and Cossa. I value the security in what I already know about Nate Danielson, right? This is a guy, as you put, whose floor is probably third-line center and his ceiling is probably second-line center. He plays an excellent two-way game. He is a center, which is a extremely highly valuable position. And yes, right side D is also a very high valuable position, but right shot centers, valuable too. So I think that the value that he brings because of the two-way game that he has and the production that he had in Grand Rapids last year, which mirrored Marco Kasper's the year before in Grand Rapids, has a lot of promise to it. And I just think that because of the idea that I know he is going to likely pan out in the middle of this lineup where you're already going to have Larkin, you're already going to have Kasper, you're already going to have Raymond, I think that puts him ahead of Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who, yes, could be like a superstar right shot D-man, but it could also just be a sheltered right shot D-man who's still very good. But for me, it's me valuing thinking I know what Danielson is going to be over the potential that ASP is on the lower end of his potential.
Yeah, certainty is more valuable than really anything else when talking about a prospect. If you are confident in what a player will become, that is far more valuable than the mystery box, right? Even if the mystery box is really high. So I don't have an issue with that at all. I think that's just, again, a philosophical difference in ranking, which everybody, to each their own.
Nor do I have an issue with you putting ASP because I completely understand the argument. Because if he does pan out, holy cow, that's going to be an exciting player to watch.
Right.
Again, and we're splitting hairs between 1 and 2 in our rankings. Like, these are both guys we are super high on. We're literally, the point of this exercise is to split hairs on the prospects.
Right.
But, Scotty, for the sake of the people, why don't you list off 10 through 1, just one final time, who you had?
Yeah, let me pull it up. Sorry. You go first. I got to re-pull up my list.
So at 10, I had Lombardi. 9, I had Anton Johansson. 8, I had Jesse Kiskinen. Dmitry Buchnikov, I had at 7. Carter Bear at 6. Trey Augustine at 5. Cossa at 4. Brandsegg-Nygard at 3. Sandin-Pellikka at 2. And Nate Danielson at 1.
I have Anton Johansson at 10. Kiskinen 9. Lombardi 8. Bear 7. Dmitry Butch, Augustine 6, Butchilnikov at 5, got it, really tried there, MBN at 4, Cossa at 3, Danielson 2, ASP at 1.
There you go. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know your guys' top 10, and we will be back on Monday for the start of 3 episodes a week. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place.
We ball.
Your team every day.
Every day.
We do ball.